You're listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers.
Presented by CMH Heli Skiing and Peak Performance.
All right, welcome to the hotel room studio. I've gone through many of these. I think this is the most elaborate one I've done thus far, with the giant globe light and.
That's good. It's
We're
very
good.
professional.
Well, thanks,
3
man.
stickers,
Yeah,
towel.
you gotta make it look good, right? Cheers, dude.
Cheers, man.
Thanks for stopping by the room.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, this is we're here in Fieberbrunn in Austria. You just competed in the Freeride World Tour comp. Some people may know that your brother was on the tour for a couple years, and then took a break this year, and now you're kind of filling in as a wild card. And your history is kind of in a different venue, or a different kind of category of skiing, slopestyle, big air, that kind of stuff. So let's just start with the Freeride World Tour for now. How did you end up getting that wild card? Did your brother just make a call? Were you here? Did you ask? How did that work out?
I actually heard about it back in October. One of the organizers called me up and was wondering if I'd be interested. And I immediately was like, wow, that'd be so cool. You know, obviously with my brother competing on it a couple of years back, and I've been following it with the long run of Kiwis that have gone before me, was always interested in it. And at the time, my brother was kind of thinking about skiing this season on the tour as well. And if there was any chance of doing a tour stop together, I was going to immediately jump on it. So said yes. And then I've actually been keeping it quiet pretty much the whole time. And until after the Olympics, it was kind of like my biggest push for this winter was getting to the Olympics. And then I was going to focus on the Freeride World Tour after that. So very happy to have made it through both of them and still be in one piece.
Yeah, man. How was your? So we talked on the Freeride World Tour podcast, which will be out, I think, by the time this conversation comes out, and got a little bit of info for you. But how was your experience? Like, is it what you expected? Like, have you done like IFSA or like the New Zealand tour events before?
Yeah, when I was a junior, I competed across the board in all disciplines, slopestyle, big air, halfpipe, and freeride. And had actually like done the junior freeride tour through like Dion Newport back in New Zealand when I was younger, and had managed to qualify for the Junior World Championships, and unfortunately couldn't go to that event because we had the Youth Olympics on at the same time. And it's kind of crazy looking back on it. It was like a little bit of a turning point, I guess, in my career, taking the like Youth Olympics route and going into slopestyle and halfpipe at the time. And I guess have kind of dabbled, I guess, since then, and a couple freeride comps. Have done the ones in New Zealand because they kind of align with the schedule a bit more, but it's honestly so hard to be doing 2 different tours like at the same time because the organizers aren't really taking into consideration people that are trying to do both. So I've always kind of wanted to be doing more freeride events, but I think just kind of been trying to prioritize the slopestyle and big air side of it a bit more, especially with the Olympics being around at the moment.
Yeah, right. And then so first FWT event, and it was on the Vilseloader. It was a special event because there's two runs. What was your experience like?
It was amazing, honestly. Like, yeah, obviously it's a pretty like traditional freeride kind of venue, a bit steeper and with lots of exposure. And I was a little bit nervous, I guess, coming into it because I'd say I'm more on the freestyle realm and kind of like that wind-lippy.
Those
kind of
first 3 events of the
hoppy.
season, you're probably watching, being like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna nail
Yeah,
this." Yeah,
I wasn't too envious though because the snow's unfortunately been pretty subpar for the Freeride World Tour this year, and unfortunately it didn't get any better for this event. But yeah, it was like really cool. You know, I thought it'd be a good challenge for me switching into like a really heavy kind of face and trying to see what I could do and find a line that kind of suits my skiing on I guess, a more traditional freeride kind of face.
yeah, right. Well, you found that spot on your second run, big old cork 7, and it was super tight. And like I was telling you this the other day, like super dialed, as it looked like this is what that guy does for a living. It's not like a freeride skier that can do them. You know what I mean? It's a guy who does this and has them like precision nailed. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, thank you.
Like this guy's gonna be a threat. And you shredded the rest of the mountain too.
Cheers, man. Yeah, I think, you know, going into this event, you do see a lot more threes and backflips and whatnot on the tour these days. And I guess for me, a priority kind of coming into this event that I really wanted to do was like do a trick that was a bit more than a 3 and hopefully try and add some style into it. And
yeah, you bring your background in, right? Like you don't bring sand to the beach, right?
Yeah,
you gotta
exactly.
you gotta bring a beach umbrella and a
Yeah.
and a Yeti cooler and all that shit. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So you had to throw it down. So that was kind of your goal. Is like I need to show them what I can do.
Yeah, just try and do something a little different. I think the biggest thing was just kind of staying true to the type of skiing that I enjoy, you know. I think that's the most important part with whenever you're doing a contest, you know, you're always trying to get a good score, but at the same time, it's staying true to what you think is a nice way of skiing. And yeah, I think I did a good display of that on the week. So
do you think now that it's a couple of years now, it's another 3 years till the Olympics comes, you might do a season on the FWT?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'd definitely be super interested if that opportunity arose, but I haven't thought about it too much. But yeah, if my brother was skiing on it, 100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be super cool. I mean, to have a few more goes, I still feel like I had a bit more to show. Unfortunately, with the snow not being that great, I'd like to have a go on a venue when the conditions are up for it.
And it'd be cool too, because we've talked about this before. There's so many siblings on the Freeride World Tour, like Jack and Andrew, and then the Nichols brothers, the Liam and his brother, and the Bathgates. If you and your bro are on it, like. Good times.
Yeah, it'd be pretty dangerous. I was actually rooming with Blake Moeller here as well, and his brother obviously was been competing on the tour
that's right,
too.
the Moellers too.
And so we were kind of talking about that, just like how crazy it is, you know, to have the opportunity to do one of the biggest events in the world, like with your sibling and travel around the world. It just seems too good to be true.
Yeah, right. So let's get into your Olympic experience. So you're a slopestyle skier, big air skier. Do you prefer one or the other?
Yeah, for me, definitely prefer slopestyle. I think just because it takes so much more to pull together a run. You know, there's so many more elements, and also within that, there's a lot more room for creativity, I think, throughout the run.
Mm-hmm. You like more of the rails, more of the big air. Like, what do you have a specialty?
I kind of love the part of piecing it all together throughout a slopestyle run, and
puzzle.
Yeah, again, trying to like show like a different approach of riding. You know, because the technical difficulty is so high these days that trying to like separate yourself from others by like riding a different line, or trying to find like, I really like transition features throughout slopestyle courses, and I think just trying to like weave together a little run that's a bit more like jibby and flowy is something that I always try and aspire to.
Yeah. And how was the course in China this year?
It was cool. Like, I think we got sent the mock-up designs of the course a little bit before the event, which is kind of rare for us. And I really liked that look of the second rail feature. There was like kind of a bowl, kind of flowy transition feature that I was like super excited.
That little like weird half bowl thing.
Yeah, and there was like a little house on the side
before
and
the
whatnot.
house. Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping to like, I don't know, be able to jump into that and then like jump over and like kind of use a whole bunch of different features in one, but it was so cold and so hard over there that it was like, one, really hard to hold an edge, and also the like features felt quite tight. They were like really compressed, so you didn't really have the option
as
to,
in like close together kind
yeah,
of thing? Is that
just like the
that you mean?
trannies were like small, so it was like you didn't have the room to kind of like flow between them. It was kind of more like land, have to like really just cut speed and then drop into the next feature.
Now, is that, you think, just a result of that course, or was that like they're doing it because it's the Olympics, so we got to make it hard?
I think it was just more the like run that they were given. They were kind of just using it to the best of their advantage, and it was just a little bit shorter where the rail features were.
Yeah,
which is kind of interesting because they had a long like amount of run between the jumps, so they could have used it a bit more to like cater for those rail sections, I think.
Mm-hmm. And what was like, how far away from Beijing was it the Secret Garden? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, we're in Secret Garden for slopestyle, and
so I haven't really talked to anybody about their Olympic experience yet, so I want to hear like all about it.
Yeah, well, overall it was pretty weird, honestly. Like, China is a pretty interesting place to travel to in itself, let alone doing a ski event of that magnitude. But I think like all the Chinese like volunteers and everyone working there was super cool, but there was almost this like sense that you're in like a simulation. Like,
it was fake.
Yeah, like we went there 2 years ago for a test event, and the town, like, well, the city was super busy. I think there's 21 million people that live in Beijing, and it was like every road was crammed. There was just like people everywhere. The air pollution was pretty bad, and like a lot of litter around as well, like lots of rubbish. And this time when we went, I didn't see like a single piece of rubbish on the ground, and there was like no one out on the roads, and all the like blinds for the apartments were shut when you'd drive from the village to like the Big Air venue, and it was kind of just had this like eerie, spooky feeling about it, that like that movie, The Interview. I don't know if you've seen that. There's
Yeah.
where like everything's kind of just placed there for your like viewing pleasure, you know.
Yeah,
so
you go to walk into a store and it's just like painted with
Yeah.
like fruit, vegetables and stuff.
exactly. So it was pretty bizarre in that sense, but
And is that all the government just telling them like close your blinds? We don't want to see your ugly face.
yeah, I don't know. You almost didn't want to read into it
Because they did like I know for the Summer Olympics they shut down all the factories for like the couple weeks before the events and then during, and people were like, the sky's blue, like we can see the sky.
Yeah,
Like-
I've been hearing some crazy stories about them putting up nitrate in the air and whatnot to like.
Oh yeah, like what is it, silver something?
Yeah,
Silver iodide actually makes it rain and like clears.
Yeah, that's what we were kind of hearing, which I don't know if it's true or not, but it's a pretty wild concept. But yeah, so we were in the like Beijing village for the Big Air event, which was the first week for skiers, which was really cool, like being in the downtown of a big city. You know, I'm from a rural part of a small town,
right behind the nuclear or the steel
The reactors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not a. It's just this. It's just like a chimney basically. People think it's a nuclear reactor, but it's like a steam plant.
Yeah, I think so.
But still, like, have you ever seen? Did you see the photos of it when it was like super far zoomed out?
Yeah,
And you're like,
it's so weird.
who decides to put that there? It was almost like some kind of slap in the face joke of like the state of the world right now. It's almost like some kind of a Simpsons joke.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But I mean, we drove for like an hour in a bus each day to get to the venue from the village, and you kind of like go through and same thing. You're just like looking out the window, checking out everything that's going on. It was just like, it was such a large city, you know, and so many condensed buildings all around. And then you pull up and you just see this like two massive reactors, and then there's just like this faint outline of this kind of like a jump, and you can't really tell what's going on, but it's because all concrete and all on this big structure, and with a grandstand at the bottom, kind of like you'd see at a football game or something like that. You know, it's pretty
permanent
nice.
there too, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it costs like $32 million or something to build that jump.
It's so weird.
It's like an elevator going up to the top of the jump in the back, and so it's like, yeah, it's bizarre, the whole thing, but pretty cool to be a part of. And still, when you click into your skis, it was
That's
the
so
same.
weird, man.
Yeah.
I was like, it just can't be real.
Yeah,
But it looked cool, like the venue where they had the cameras. They had that like fake wall of China thing, that wall, the wind wall or whatever it was.
yeah.
Was the course good? Like, did you enjoy the jump? Were you happy with how it was built?
Yeah, I really liked the jumps. Like, they had some kind of different approaches to the jumps with those, like we called them the Twisted Sisters when we were there. There was like two carving jumps on the first one, and then there was some like kind of half pipe takeoffs on the second jump, and then just one money booter at the bottom, which all three of them were really good. But it was like negative 27 degrees Celsius.
Was it
in the
that
morning, so
cold?
it was like super cold. You're wearing like 5 different layers, and so like trying to set a double cork when you're feeling like a marshmallow was pretty hectic. But yeah, it was interesting just trying to adapt to like the cold. And
Do you think some riders benefit from that more than others? Do you think
probably. I mean, I never really wear a jacket when I'm in New Zealand, so I'm not used to it at all. But I saw some of the Norwegians wearing like the tape to stop frostbite and whatnot, which I've never seen in a slopestyle competition before. So
Right.
it's pretty nuts.
What was the start like? Was there like is there like a room with heaters and stuff? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure they have an elevator up there. There's like some kind of lounge that you're waiting in before you drop in.
They had kind of like these container rooms that would all sit in together, and when you weren't riding, you were always in there. And like between the contest runs, everyone was sitting like huddled up watching the TV, and you just kept all your layers on because it was that cold, even from being outside. And you go inside where it's warm and you're still freezing.
That's wild, dude. Do they have like bikes or anything that you can like spin, like warm up? Or...
Don't think so.
Like,
no.
what do you do? Like, are you the kind of guy that, like, I know some people in all different sports are like always stretching, warming up, making sure they're good to go, and then there's those others who are just like, oh, it's my turn. Okay, yeah, cool.
Yeah, I don't know.
Over here, and they just go and do it.
Yeah, I kind of just like hang with the crew and usually watch a few of the runs, and then just before going, like for your contest run, go for a quick little run up a hill or something, and I don't know, do a couple jumps or something to make sure your body's still working, and then get into it. So nothing too hectic.
I'm surprised they didn't have like another slope like off the back.
Yeah,
So they're just having one, but have like a warm up run.
Yeah, a little training run or
A
something.
little training lap that you can do, like, you know, some they have like a bike in the back or something like that, or other events, or or something. I don't know.
There was a ski across course which looked pretty fun to go ride, but we didn't get on it because they were competing the whole time we were there.
Was that the full course? Like it's in the same zone.
It was like just 100 meters across from where we were starting, so you could kind of see it all in this one area. There's like aerials, moguls, the ski across course, half pipes just beside of us on the other side of the like crazy wind fence that they built, and then we were just like in the middle of it too. So, and you all came together right at the bottom, and there'd be like a bunch of Chinese down there just going like, yeah. It was just pretty cool.
That's sick, dude. What did you get to go see any other events? Were you allowed to like go out and about at all, or is it still pretty locked down with like COVID and stuff?
Yeah, you could go watch some other events. Since we had two events and like 2 disciplines at these games, we were pretty busy the whole time. Like finished the contest in Big Air, and then the very next day we were up and had training for slopestyle, so we didn't get to see too much of the other sports going on. But the last night we went up and watched the aerials contest, which I've never seen in person before, which was mind-blowing, just how high they go and how hard they come down.
Oh, dude, I know. I'm surprised there's not more crossover, like ex-aerialists into like slopestyle or something.
I'm sure we'll probably see more in the Big Air scene in the next few years. I know China's getting them in young and breeding them up for it. So
yeah, we were just talking about Turpin off air, Turpin and Mara, who were coaching Team China, and it's just like every once in a while you get lucky with the kid they choose, because it's not a lot of the like kids who the kids don't choose that, or they don't end up in that sport. They just get chosen for the sport, which is wild to me.
Yeah, crazy concept, especially, I mean, for me, coming from a small country like New Zealand, you feel quite valued as an athlete because there's not many of us, you know, and I feel like for the Chinese team, if like one of them gets injured, they just like switch them out and bring a new kid in. So completely different culture, I guess, within this nation.
They're all of a sudden farming in like some rural town like the next week. All right, you're over here now.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned like feeling valued by your country. You know, I'm a huge fan of New Zealand. I've spent a lot of time there, a lot of good friends there, and they do appreciate their sport. They're a sporting nation, and they do appreciate their athletes and the people, and they celebrate them. So you got to walk into the Olympics as a flag bearer for your own country. Is that the most special moment of your entire life?
Yeah, it was such an honor, honestly.
Like just thinking about it, I'm getting goosebumps about how special that must have been.
Yeah, it meant so much to me. I only found out like 12 hours before we walked out into the stadium, and I got to do it alongside Alice Robinson, who's a crazy talented ski racer. And yeah, just having that opportunity to walk out there, and we get these really like special cloaks that they've worn for years and years throughout the New Zealand team. I think the moment of like putting that cloak on was the part that like touched me the most. It was pretty special, just thinking of all the other amazing athletes that have gone before me and had that opportunity.
Where you're just like, is this really happening to me right now?
Yeah, I remember like just before we walked out, Alice and I were looking at each other and we're like, how did we get this gig? Like, who invited us?
Yeah,
it was cool.
How did that all come together? What was like? Did anybody tell you what the decision process was like? And like, because this is your second Olympics, and like, what was their criteria, the deciding factor? What was the reason? Like, did you find out? Like, why did I get this honor?
Yeah, they have like a committee within the New Zealand Olympic Committee that decides who's going to be the flag bearer, and kind of like also looks over the whole team. And I guess they got together before the event started out of the athletes that were there, and they've kind of got like the core values of like the New Zealand team, and I guess both Alice and I kind of represented those well in their eyes. And
which are what do you think there? I'm putting you on the spot and making you feel uncomfortable. I want you to talk about how good you are.
I'm not entirely sure. I think in New Zealand, like, we've got this thing called like tall poppy syndrome, you know, like no matter what you're doing, you're never trying to like talk up about yourself too much, and just kind of like keeping it pretty humble and quiet. And yeah, I'd like to think I'd stay like that. And yeah, I think all of us, we're all trying to achieve big things, but we don't like to come across like it's a big arduous task. You know, we're there to have a good time and to support others within the team. And I think they might have seen that in both Alice and myself, and that's hopefully why I got the gig.
That's unreal, dude. Like I can't even imagine. What was it? Tell me, what was it like that night? Do you remember much of it? Was like just a blur or what?
Yeah, there's quite a lot of like waiting around like before going out. You've got to go through like all these security checks, and they're organizing obviously all the lines and whatnot of people going out. And I remember just before we walked out, it's kind of like going into a rugby stadium where it's dark all behind the stadium, and then we went through this corral and they hand you the flag like just before, and it's just like the most amazing lights, and the Olympic rings are suspended above you like in the sky, and there's this this Chinese lady that was walking out with a New Zealand like tag and whatnot, and she's got this crazy outfit going on. And I remember just like going from the dark to light and just being like so overwhelmed. I think that's the moment where the Olympics kind of like hits a different string in your body. You know, it's kind of just like the magnitude of that event is so much bigger than any other sporting event, and to have those moments where you're kind of within such a big production is kind of when it sets in. So yeah, it was amazing. And honestly, I just was pretty nervous not to, I really just want to get the flag tangled up, because I mean, then your whole nation's looking at you and you're the one that cooked and walking out. So.
You're like tripped and fall or something.
Yeah, it's funny because it's like obviously a pretty mellow task that you're doing. You're just swinging the flag around, but when you're on that stage, you like over process it and you start like trying to figure out how you even hold the pole, you know.
No training or anything before?
Nah,
just like, here you go.
Both Alice and I were like, oh, hopefully we get out of that and we'll like figure out how we're going to do this. And they literally gave it to you like probably 10 meters before you walked out. And when then we were just like, uh-oh, like, shit, we're doing it. Yeah, it was pretty heavy. It was a big flag, so.
Was it, so did you guys pass the flag back and forth?
We walked out like holding it together, and we were kind of like swinging it together, and then took turns and got a bit more freestyle with it.
That's wild, man. What's her event?
She competes in almost all the race disciplines, like Super G and downhill and all that. I don't know too much about ski racing, so I don't want to get them wrong, but
that's fair.
Yeah.
How many medals did New Zealand bring in? Do you know?
We got 3, so 2 golds between Zoe, Nico, and then Zoe got another
bronze, was it? Silver.
Yeah.
How is it that freestyle skiing, snowboarding, like these auxiliary sports that have just are now being absorbed in the Olympics are what gets all the medals, right? Like they're the coolest sports still.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's still such a wild concept to me that freestyle skiing and snowboarding is in the Olympics. You know, like growing up, probably in one of the last generations where it wasn't a thing, you know, and
right.
You're aiming towards the X Games and film parts and all that other stuff. So to kind of just be on that scale of an event and to still be doing the like sport that you love the most, and obviously it's come from a bit of a fringe culture and anti-establishment, and to be in something that's so established and so structured it does have its like positives and negatives, but I think when you're there it's just so wild, you know, because you're with all these other athletes that you've looked at on the TV and you know nothing about, you know, the different sports. It's just like it's such a cool environment to be in as a freestyle skier.
Do you find that they're like, I know it's changing, but like the sport away from the Olympics, is the Olympic influence changing the sport too much, do you think?
I think it's had a huge influence, not just on like the riding, but the culture within like slopestyle and big air and the freestyle scene. There's just so much more structure that comes in when you've got government funding and these national teams, and a lot more eyes on it that, you know, weren't really associated to that anti-establishment and the rebellion. I think it's pretty wild when you go back in time and you look at how free skiing kind of came about, you know, and it was people rebelling against moguls, you know, like J.P. Claire and J.F. Cousson and all those, the guys that kind of set the roots of our sport, and they were always trying to go away from those rules. And it kind of seems like it's gone full circle again with the Olympic movement, where we're kind of going into more structure and like more routine. And it's been interesting to be a part of, because I think the lifestyle that I envisioned to become a pro skier, and obviously having watched Jossie Wells, you know, he was the first pro skier that I saw and definitely idolized a lot growing up, and the lifestyle he was living is a very different lifestyle to what I'd be living, although we're doing similar things, I'd say, on paper, you know.
Yeah, 10 years separated, and it's like, two very, very, very different things.
For sure. And it's like really interesting talking to Jossie about it now, because he's like kind of become a mentor for me, and just hearing about his stories. And he has been to an Olympics and has seen that shift within it. And yeah, it's really interesting just like hearing how the sport's changed, I guess, within that.
Mm-hmm. And now I guess you're kind of the stepping into that role now as well as a mentor, like second Olympics, you know, like you're another one of those famous Kiwi families, right?
Yeah.
And you know, as the kids move up, like, are you a coach?
No, not
Like,
coaching.
No, but as those kids kind of move into those roles, you're gonna end up being around, and you'll be like, all right, we're getting Finn for this camp. And you'll be able to like see where the next generation is going to be and how they're going to be going. They're like, oh man, I saw you on TV.
Yeah.
Like, you inspired me. Have you got a lot of that yet?
Yeah, I have like started to, and it kind of just still shocks me because I just feel like the frothing little grommet, you know, that's idolizing all these other people still. And
You're not that kid anymore.
Yeah.
You've moved into the next stage.
Yeah, I still am pinching myself when you have those moments when a kid comes up to you and asks for advice or gives you some kudos on like an event or a video thing that you did. And it's just really cool to see it go full circle. And I still so clearly remember like following around all the pros at Snowpark back in the day and just like hanging on their tail, probably being pretty annoying. But yeah, it's so cool to like meet kids now and to kind of see that they're stoked out on what you're doing.
Rest in peace, Snowpark, right?
And no, rest in peace.
Is that where you learned how to ski, or basically like where was it located?
So it's just in the same valley as Cardrona, and it was
yeah.
just on the mountain just across from it.
So why? I don't think I ever knew why it stopped. Like, so Snowpark, explain what it was. It was basically just a terrain park.
Yeah, so it was simply just a terrain park.
It's an outside gym, right?
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, it just was a small area, not a very big hill, one chairlift, and they had the best terrain park in the Southern Hemisphere throughout a pretty long period. And everyone used to come down. It was kind of just like the meeting spot for the Northern Hemisphere, like summer. And yeah, it was so cool, like growing up in Wanaka, you know, and getting to experience that. I think there's so many kids that are my age that don't even know what Snowpark is now, and to have grown up and seen that culture, and it was very true to the core of like action sports and like the freestyle world. And yeah, I think it would be a very different kind of culture within like the New Zealand skiing and snowboarding community if that was still around, because there was a lot of people that were doing like training and riding not just for like a competition. They were just doing it for the love a lot more. So it was a super amazing place to get to experience at such a young age.
What happened to it? Like, is like did they redevelop the land, or
it's turned into like proving grounds, which is where they like test out cars. They like have the new Audis and stuff come up there, and they trial them out on snow and see if they work all good.
I guess that's not. I'm glad it's not something super lame.
Yeah,
like condos or something, but like still. Like,
the stair set is still in there though. The legendary stair set that everyone used to hit. That's just in front of the wool shed. So
oh really?
You get trespassed. I've had a few buddies that have tried to go up there. So on the snowboard crew, and yeah,
tickets.
Yeah.
So do you like where is Cardrona your home resort?
Yeah, Cardrona, Triple Cone, depends.
TC, because TC's got a better park, right?
TC's got better freeride, and then Cardrona's got the park. So,
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
because I always get them kind of like, what memory was that from? Is that from this one or is that from that one?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's right under the chair, right? There's like the half pipe near the top of the chair. Am I talking? Am I? Cardrona, you go up and it's like there's about one chair and it kind of runs alongside.
Yeah, there's like Whiteside chairlift, and that's
Whiteside.
where the like main terrain park is, the big terrain park, and then further to your left is where the half pipe and big air jump are.
Right. And the Chondola is on TC, right?
That's at Cardrona.
Cardrona?
Yeah.
I saw that the first time and I like did a double take and I'm like, am I reading that right?
Yeah.
Is it actually
the
called
Chondi.
the Chondola?
Yeah.
This is like a chair gondola. It's like half and half, right? It's like a chair and then a cabin and
yeah,
like
they've
a
got
chair.
like 4 chairs and then a gondola kind of set up.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it's super weird. I don't really understand it.
Has anybody ever tried to like change the name?
I don't think so. It's pretty recent. It's only been in the last like 3 or 4 years that we've had.
Yeah,
that.
I was there in like 2017 and it was like, maybe that was the first year.
Yeah.
The Chondola. I was like,
Yeah.
for real?
Welcome to New Zealand.
Yeah, they actually named it that, right?
Yeah.
It's hot in here, hey?
It's super hot.
Man, this brutal, this hotel. I don't know if everyone was telling me it's just Austria, they like to have their heat up.
Yeah.
So what are you gonna do? How long are you in Europe for?
I'm kicking around here until like mid-April. I've got a couple more events on, and then
Are you going to that Daniel Hanke Invitational thing?
I'm not going to that. I'm gonna stick around and just shred for like the next week, and then There's some talks of like a Red Bull invitational event going on in Avoria. That's kind of going to be like a backcountry freestyle event from what I understand. And I'm on the waiting list for it at the moment, so fingers crossed get into that. And then
when does that happen?
End of March, and so yeah.
So like when the Verbier, the final for FWT's on?
Yeah, like 27th of March or something it starts. So.
Where is that?
In Avoria, in France.
Oh, so you could potentially go to the Verbier comp and then...
Yeah, come on. I don't know if I'll be competing, but I would love to come over and watch.
Well, yeah, exactly. You never know. They give out wildcards pretty. I don't understand a lot of the wildcards, but it's good that they fill spots.
Yeah, and then Audi 9's just after that. So
it's not Audi this year.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
That's all right. It's just the 9s. I actually contacted them.
Not to say that.
I know, right? I actually contacted them to see if I could go. I'd have to end up staying another week, and I don't want to stay. I'm already here for like 3 weeks. I don't think I can be here a month.
Yeah,
I'm already got a lot of people helping me out with the dog a lot this
yeah.
this year, right? But it's just the 9, so they lost the Audi sponsorship, so it's a little tighter for them.
Yeah.
But I think that's always been one of my favorite events.
Yeah, for sure. It was my first year there last year, and it's so cool. Like the first time you set eyes on the features is just mind blowing.
I don't think in skiing there's another comp that has such detail in its features and its park, and like it's what it is. It's attention to detail, and it's always so unique.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so aesthetically pleasing, and just riding the features is super interesting. You know, there's like so many tranny hits, and then there's like big jumps, and then there's like last year they had that big sphere with a big hole going through it, which I've got no idea how they actually built. But it's cool because it's just jam format kind of thing, so you really feed off all the different riders that are there.
Is that nice and refreshing for you, like jam format versus like you go from the Olympics and now you're just like, okay, we can just kind of chill. We're figuring out who's the best. Someone's going to do something that, fires everybody up. Yeah,
for sure. And I think it's cool because lots of the tricks that you see like on the World Cup circuit and at the Olympics, they're like super technically difficult, but then you also see these like really creative sides of riding at the Audi 9s, and you kind of see the full spectrum, and it's interesting to see like what actually resonates with you and what you think's like the coolest, because often it's not the most technically difficult, but it's
I bet you a lot of the ideas for like are spawned from those kind of events, right? Because you just have freedom of creativity and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. You've got no limits there really, so you can kind of just trial and error. If you muck it up, that's like all good because you've got another shot right after.
Yeah, right. Well, that's cool. Europe, hey? Are you just gonna go mountain to mountain, or are you gonna take any time to chill on the beach?
Pretty mountain to mountain. I think I'll do some surfing when I get back to New Zealand, but yeah, just lapping up the ski life at the moment, the European living, the spritzers.
That's another thing too. So the Freeride World Tour, I guess, always goes to Aliia Bay, that like surf farm.
Yeah.
What do you call it? What would you call it?
Wave pool.
Wave pool.
Yeah.
See, whenever I think of wave pool, I think of like one at the West Edmonton Mall.
Yeah.
And like kids in like floaties just getting tossed. Have you seen that video in that Chinese wave pool? And there's like literally like 10,000 people in the pool, and they're just getting.
No way.
There's like big floaty, like whales and shit. And people are just getting tossed.
Getting smoked.
Oh man, like it's just thousands of people just getting rolled over each other.
Yeah.
That's what I think about with wave pool. But it's just like a standing wave, like a consistent wave. And I think they're doing like a comp with their riders, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're doing like a Freeride World Tour cup or something.
You should try and get in on that.
I know, it'll be sick. We're actually just there with Quicksilver like 3 or 2 days before the event.
Oh, no, that's right.
Yeah.
On my Instagram, my new research technique, Instagram, I saw you like got a sick barrel.
Yeah, it was so fun. We got to go there with like the whole Quicksilver team and all the reps and retailers from the global side, and we surfed for like 3 hours going into the dark, like getting barreled at like 8 o'clock at night. So it was insane.
And there's no paddling out, so you're not getting
there is paddling. They have 4 sets or something per like wave that comes through, and then you kind of just go up the side, and it's kind of like an eddy, like you'd have in a river, and you just like paddle back up. It's pretty exhausting, honestly, because you don't have any time to like sit and just like wait for the next set like you'd have in the ocean. So you're just like back to back, but it's definitely the best type of exhausting.
Have you done it before?
I did it in November, and then we went for Audi 9s last year, but they hadn't actually opened to the public when we went for Audi 9s, and so they wouldn't let us use the hard top boards, and so we're all using like these big foamies and stuff.
Oh, we were joking about that at lunch today. We're like, hey, can I get the 8-foot foamy?
Yeah.
Can I have mine blue, please?
Yeah, it was a bit of a tease because like the waves are just so perfect, and then we were just like looking like the kooks, like trying to get barrel on these massive foamies, but it was so fun, and just it's mind-blowing to check out how the actual wave works, because they're just like the most perfect sets that roll through, and yeah, pretty crazy to know that if you muck it up, you've got another shot. It's like that's something in the ocean that you're never ever going to have. So
does it make you think it's going to make you a better surfer? Because you can actually focus on... See, my thing with most people's thing with surfing, I think, is because there's that lack of consistency. So you can get on a wave, you're like, yeah, I'm on a wave. You can go maybe grab your rail or something like that for the first... I remember the first time.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, that was amazing. They're like, Warner got some green. I'm like,
yeah.
Some green water. And then you don't ever get that feeling. Maybe you don't get that feeling again, like on that trip or the next trip. Next time you go surfing for someone like me, it's maybe the year later, and you totally forget that feeling. So there isn't that progression where you can like build off of.
For sure. I think it will like really improve some aspects of your surfing, but then there's obviously like things like reading the ocean and whatnot that you're never going to learn from a wave pool. But
once you're on there, you're like, oh, whoopah!
Yeah, all the same kind of thing. But it's kind of interesting you say that, because I think with surfing there is like almost that spiritual connection, if you want to call it that. When you get that wave, you're never going to have that same moment again, and that like creates so much more of like a special moment, you know, because you're finishing, and then you're always going like, oh, I want another one, but sometimes you never get it again, you know.
Right.
So
and you got to wait for it, and that's why it's so special. And it's like skiing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I lived in a ski town my whole life, but every POW day, it's like, I don't know when the next one is going to be.
Yeah.
So I have to go up.
Yeah.
Right?
You got to get up, first lift, ski to the end. It's like,
yeah.
That's what makes it so good. And
like, people don't understand it. They're like, well, you live in a ski town, you ski every day. I'm like, no, not like this, though. Like, yeah. People get emotional and frustrated. Yeah. Like, this season, I've been fortunately busy, but I remember other years like this. And in Whistler specifically, and most places.
Yeah, here, I mean, New Zealand's pretty small resort, so we get a bit of a power frenzy for sure.
Yeah, and even so, like, you go through those gaps, and it's like 6 weeks in, and it's like getting hangry. It's like the ski version of hangry.
Yeah,
you start getting like cranky. And
yeah,
you're like, what's wrong with you? No fucking snow. Like,
yeah.
You're like, "Rrr." And then when it comes, you're like, I don't know. I'm calling in sick, or I'm just not going to work, or I'm coming in late, or I'm doing everything I can to make sure I'll edit till 2 a.m. because I'm skiing all day, kind of thing, right?
For sure.
I guess there's kind of that synergy between the two sports where
the fleeting moment that you just got to relish in.
Yeah, right. Like, there's nothing better when you're right in the middle of that moment. I wonder, like, the amount of times you've been on a wave or like waist deep. Yeah. And moving, if you take all of the time combined, how much actually of your life is short. It? But it's so impactful. It's so wild.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's kind of a crazy concept now that you can just like pay money and learn to surf, you know, whereas like I feel like it was one of those few sports that it was a very like level and like humbling sport, because it doesn't matter who you are when you get out in the ocean, all you've got is your wetsuit or your boardies and your board, and like you're going to have to get pummeled to learn to surf. And now it's kind of like you don't have to take one wave on the head and you can just like lap this thing up, you know? So yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, but I think the importance of like surfing the ocean will never disappear.
No, absolutely not. See, for me, like the wave pool, I was talking to them the other day, I'm like, hey, can I get in on this? And they're like, oh, it's just for athletes. And I'm like, I'm not going to be going to this thing and just stand around and watch and not get in the water. Yeah. Like, is there like a public access? Like, I need to get in there. I was talking to Fafa who works for the Freeride World Tour. She's like a surf instructor. I'm like, are you getting in? She's like, I'm not getting in front of everybody. I'm like, why not? She's like, I don't want to be watched. I'm like, why? Because they'll show everybody that you're better than them all and just smoke everyone. But like for someone like me, it's almost like an accessibility thing. Mm-hmm. Same thing with skiing, right? Skiing's an expensive sport. You have to be from the right place, like physically and geographically. Mm-hmm. You have to have kind of the right background. Like a lot of things have to go right for you to be able to be the kind of person who is able to go skiing every day. Like I try not to ever forget that. Surfing is the same thing, right? You got to you can live near the ocean, but is there a surf break there? Like for me, we've got Tofino and a couple other spots, and it's a 6-hour trip. Yeah. And then even then, and maybe not so much in Canada, but in other places, you get in the water and you're not getting to surf the decent waves either, because you're at the back of the lineup, don't know how it works, you're the kook, You're getting people who are super aggressive in the water. I still don't understand why or how surfer bros with like this laid back kind of like aesthetic are so aggressive, right?
Yeah.
Like so aggressive. So it's for me, I'd really appreciate a wave pool like that, because then I'd be able to get to try it, right?
Yeah.
I don't have the ability to spend years and years and years developing that skill for something that I really love to do and want to be better at. So like, I'm stoked. Here's $100.
Yeah.
Give me 5 waves.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Because I'll get way more out of that just in advancing my skill level than I would in the ocean.
Yeah.
But being in the ocean is also nice, floating around. And
Yeah, absolutely.
seeing the pelicans. And
Yeah. Similar like living in Wanaka. I mean, we're 3 hours from any coast.
3 coasts.
Yeah. So we're like one of the most inland spots in New Zealand, being in Wanaka. So it's nice though, because you just sit and ski when you've got the time, and then check the forecast, and you can kind of go any different direction. It's all
Ski
the same,
pow in the
so-
morning and go get a sunset surf
Yeah,
session
you can.
in the afternoon.
It's sick. I've done that a couple times. It's definitely worth the mission.
I know. I don't remember who it was, but they were trying to do a surf. Maybe like Morris's. They're doing some video or something. They wanted to ski, or they wanted to ride
Ski, surf, skate.
and mountain bike. Yeah, I think they were skating, but you can like mountain bike. You could ski in Whistler. You could surf, or you could bike in Squamish, and then if you like caught the heli jet or something over to the island, or like take the mission and floor it, you could get there for sunset and do like a sunset mission.
That sounds like a terrible time.
Oh man, fucking exhausted you'd be. Shred and pow. Or no, it wouldn't be shred and pow because it'd probably be in the summertime. But like ski the glacier,
Yeah.
big mountain bike ride, and then a long drive, and then finish the day floating in the ocean.
Yeah. So good.
What a life, hey. We're so fortunate to be from the places that we're from.
Absolutely.
Canada, New Zealand, I always thought of like is like a Canada, but like compressed
Yeah.
into like a 4-hour drive, coast to coast. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
drive like Highway 73, like through the clubbies.
Yeah.
Every half an hour is a different microclimate, a different landscape, and you're like, oh, this is like Maple Ridge, this is like the Rockies, this is like that, this is like this.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. You kind of have it all like in New Zealand and Canada, and it's so sick because you can just do so many activities all the time there. So you've got like so many different options.
That's probably where the adventure sports kind of mentality of there's a lot of Kiwis are adventure sports heroes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Might as well just get gnarly, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
What are you doing with yourself when you're not riding? Like a lot of Kiwis, they get to do the back-to-backs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here, a lot of athletes will be like, oh, yeah, I'll go down to New Zealand or South America, but it's only for like a couple weeks. Whereas you guys get to, most of the time, pro riders will spend the whole winter in either Europe or North America and then go back and cool, we get another winter. Whereas the North Americans, they'll do maybe a couple weeks and then bang nails or get a job in the summer or plant trees or something. Like, what do you do when you're not on your missions?
Yeah.
Is it like full time for you?
I'm pretty full time. I kind of have like 6 weeks maybe on either side of the season. I think this is like my 26th winter in a row or something, and I'm only 22, so I've been pretty lucky in that.
For real?
Yeah. So I've been doing back-to-back winters since I was 9 years old.
9?
Yeah.
You're traveling with your family?
Yeah, so both my parents are actually from overseas. Dad's from upstate New York and Rochester, and then my
Do you have an American passport?
Yeah, I do, which is super lucky.
Nice.
And then my mum's from North Yorkshire in England, so they
Do you have a
both-
British passport?
I do. I've got the.
You've got
trifecta.
3?
Yeah.
You've got 3 passports?
I'm a lucky
Oh my
bastard.
god, that's amazing.
Yeah.
It was so much better until they backed out of the EU.
I know Brexit really stuffed us up. I'm starting to find the ramifications of dealing with visas right at the moment. I've only got a couple weeks left in Europe, so I'm.
Well, you can swap them, right? You can use a Kiwi visa, and then you can apply for like one on your American passport, one on your British passport. Are you able to do that?
I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but that'd be,
How would
I
they
should,
know?
I should give it a crack. That sounds
Right.
great.
No, he's not the Finn Bilous from America. He's
Yeah.
the Finn Bilous from New Zealand.
Exactly. I'll just switch into an American accent and give it a crack.
Can you do one?
Can you supersize that? Pretty average. So yeah, both my parents are from overseas, and we've been traveling, I guess, as a family to like go visit their parents and relatives and whatnot, and all our family skis, so it always tied into a ski trip. So I've been pretty fortunate in that sense of being able to do so much skiing growing up, and then kind of once I started competing, and I spend less time with my family overseas now, but still getting to do back-to-back winters. So
Are they still doing the travel?
they were before COVID, and then since COVID happened, it's been real hard to travel outside of New Zealand. We had like closed borders and MIQ, like a hotel booking system.
Yeah, tell me about that. Did you have to do the full-on book a hotel room for 2 weeks kind of thing?
Yeah, last year I did. I stayed in New Zealand longer than I have since I was like 15 years old.
A lot of the Kiwis got to spend a summer in New Zealand for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, so I stayed until January, so got like a bit longer of a summer, which was really nice. And I was rehabbing a broken collarbone at the time, but got to see a bunch of more of New Zealand and do some other activities, just like you were kind of saying. I'm really into surfing when I'm not skiing, and also like to dabble in like photography and arts and do a lot of drawing. And then we went overseas in January and got to spend like 3 months, and you had to pre-book like a quarantine booking in a hotel
before you left the country.
So
that's so wild, man.
Yeah, it was crazy, and there was like they'd open up slots and they'd get booked out within like 3 minutes or something like that. And I mean,
did you get a little like special treatment because
no, we
you're
didn't.
Like a national athlete?
Nah, there was
maybe
same for everyone. We luckily had someone from our team that was like sitting on the booking website and would just like
refresh
crank it out, which was so nice of her. And so we all got spots before leaving, and I had about like 3.5 months overseas, and then came back and did the 2 weeks quarantine. And I was pretty lucky because I got like one of the nicer hotels, which is just full luck of the draw. But it was pretty interesting sitting by yourself for 2 weeks, because you find out a bit about yourself, you know, when you're just stuck with you and your own mind and your computer. But
see, that kind of stuff's fascinating to me, because like I personally have always been kind of like a solo kind of person. I'm like the extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
Like when I'm out, I'm like, hey, what's going on? But as soon as I'm inside, I'm like, I just want to be here. Go away. Don't want to talk to anybody or do anything. Right.
Yeah.
So I've always spent a lot of time just on my own. But when you're forced to stay in, prison is the wrong word, but when you're like encapsulated in this little space, that's fascinating that you say you learned a lot about yourself.
Yeah. I think like the biggest thing for me that I learned is just like how important like sport and exercise and just getting out and doing things is to me, because I know definitely try and fill every day with some kind of activity, and when you're limited to, I don't know, doing a little gym workout or something in your room. I luckily got a spin bike in my room, which was kind of nice.
It was just there. Did you have it delivered?
We got delivered
Amazon
to the team.
Yeah.
And then we also had the opportunity each day to take a bus, and you got like driven to a pen, like literally like a sheep, and you could just walk around in circles for about half an hour.
Basically like prison.
Yeah, so it was crazy. And that I did 1 or 2 days walking, and then I was kind of over that, so I started like running, and they like nah, you can't run, like you're gonna like breathe too hard and like, have
For
chance
real?
of like spreading COVID. Then
were there dudes in a tower with like machine guns and
no
shit?
machine guns, but there's people sitting there just being like, nah man, you can't be doing that. So I started working on my handstands and doing other weird shit to fill in the time. But yeah, it was cool. And I mean, there's still so many fun things you can do, like with editing and I don't know, doing.
It's almost a good thing because you're forced to catch up. Like
Yeah.
you were telling me today, like it's raining outside, rain to the top. I was making a joke to someone. I'm like, I came to an Austrian ski resort and I skied one run.
Yeah.
Right. But like today, you're like, I got a bunch of admin, caught up on my emails and all that kind of stuff, and like it forces you to like get back to, you know, net zero.
Yeah, and I think when you know you're going into like a hotel isolation, like the last couple of weeks I was out in society or whatever you want to call it, like you just lap it up, and I was just kind of like super hard, burning the candle at both ends kind of thing. And then once I got there, I was studying as well, and so I was like trying to catch up on studies and like, just had some time to like go through all those different things, you know.
Are you going to school right now?
Right now I'm like taking the semester off, but I've been studying like a design degree through a university back home as well.
Oh, neat. What kind of design?
It's a design innovation degree, so you kind of tap into a bunch of different types of design, and like graphic design stuff, and then some industrial design, and even
what's
at, like,
industrial design?
It's like the process of building things. So,
okay.
So it's like product design.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was not like architectural design where someone's an architect and you coordinate with them on.
Nah, not as much. But then you also look at like the psychology and kind of how design impacts the society and environment and whatnot.
Did you ever see that design show on Netflix?
Yeah, Abstract.
Yeah, and it's a different person in a different field, every single one. Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it was so sick. I love that. But yeah, so it was kind of like catching up on that when I was back in hotel quarantine and whatnot, and then also planned a trip like for as soon as I got out and went surfing for like 2 weeks after. So
yeah, right. Were you able to like open a window and like put your face?
No, I couldn't actually. There was no windows in my place, so
no fresh air.
Yeah, every time you like go on the spin bike or something, it would get pretty stuffy and rank in there. But
and it was January, so it'd be hot outside.
Yeah,
sunny.
Oh, I got back in it was mid-April, so
so it's
fall, autumn time, fall.
Yeah, early fall. I don't know how I would. One of my biggest fears in life, and I was thinking about this the other day, it would be like getting put into jail, like being stuck in jail. Like for some reason in the last year or so, I think about it a lot.
That's concerning, man. You should get that checked out.
I know. Well, I think I have like a little claustrophobia.
Yeah.
Like panicky stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, my brain would break.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would totally break down. I don't know. For some reason, that's just been thoughts that have been popping in my head.
Yeah.
So I had Andrew Pollard on a couple of weeks ago, and he's an artist, and we were talking about like the difference between like art and skiing and all that kind of stuff. Have you talked to him since you've been on the tour, and like what kind of like what's your like focus? Like what kind of stuff do you like to make? Are you, like you said, for like visual art? Are you a painter? Are you a drawer? Or do you just like taking photos?
Yeah, I think I'm just like very interested in like creative expression and a whole bunch of different mediums, and each of those are different outlets to do it. And I kind of look at skiing as one of those. It's just kind of about self-expression, and you can kind of use whatever to express yourself. So I wouldn't really say I'm into one more than the other. I just kind of like dabbling in different things and seeing what you create, and sometimes it's the stuff that's more unplanned that turns out to be pretty great,
Right, everything that's unplanned is always the best.
Yeah.
I was telling someone the other day, I'm like, every time you have expectations for anything,
yeah,
they're rarely met. And even if they are met, you were kind of, okay, I was expecting that.
Yeah.
Right? The things that happen that you don't expect, or like, I try to just not plan anything.
Yeah.
I'm going to, like, I'm going to the Czech Republic. I'm going to go to that Daniel thing with Noah Wallace.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I want to go to the Czech Republic to Daniel's. I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I got nothing to do for those 3 days. This is perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you go with like an open blank slate, that's when the best things happen.
Yeah. We always call it a tight, loose program on Team Useless, because it's like you, as a Kiwi, you're overseas for so long and there's only so much you can plan ahead. And so you like kind of have a loose plan, and then it kind of becomes tighter and tighter as things go along, and stuff always pops up, and it's nice to have the freedom to jump on those.
How important is that there's such a good Kiwi crew, especially in places like this for you guys?
Yeah, it's so cool. Like I definitely wouldn't be here doing this if it wasn't for all the other guys that are competing on the tour. There's such a strong community within the ski world in New Zealand, and I think coming from a small nation, you really like bounce off each other, and people are always open to like giving you advice or helping you out, like having a place to crash for a night. If there's another Kiwi in a spot, you're almost always welcome. So it's super cool to have such a welcoming environment like that.
Did you know most of the Kiwis on the tour beforehand?
Yeah, I feel like every Kiwi knows around in the New Zealand ski scene. We're pretty small, so everyone kind of comes together as well in like Wanaka, Queenstown region throughout the New Zealand season. So it's hard to miss someone, if they're from New Zealand and they're skiing or snowboarding. Yeah.
So with your family, is it just you and your bro?
Yeah, just me and my brother. So
yeah. What's he up to right now?
He's back home. He's had the summer back there. He's surfing a lot, and he's studying nursing. So he's just like finishing off his last year doing that. He had a little break last year, but is back into it now. So
sweet. Well, I hope we get to see him back on the tour.
Yeah, me too.
He's the biggest character, one of the biggest characters I think I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah. He's definitely was missing it this week. I think we were talking a lot together, and
do you think he's having a tough time seeing you here with like all those people, and proud, but also like a little like
I don't think so, honestly. Like I definitely thought it might have that kind of emotion coming off of it, but he's had like some things that he needed, I guess, sorted out before like being in the position to ski on the world tour, and he seems really content with his decision and staying home, and I think it was the right decision. He has had some like mental illness stuff in the last couple of years, and I think it's more important to address your health and your mental health before you drop into something like this, because I mean it's pretty crazy roller coaster on the mind, even if you've got a stable brain, and let alone an unstable one. So yeah, I think it's cool that he's prioritized that, and something that's should be spoken about probably more in the skiing and snowboarding world.
Yeah, and like I said, I didn't really want to bring that up specifically. Just I wanted to see if that's something you'd be willing to talk about. But that's good, because that's something I think that's fortunately gaining more traction in the last 5-10 years, is the ability to talk about mental health. I took a mental health break 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
I was like, you know what? I didn't put out an episode. I had one ready, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to. I just don't want to go through it this week.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm taking a mental health break. I kind of was thinking about it a little bit before, and then just prioritizing yourself, not getting burnt out, making sure that where you're at, I think is really key.
For sure. I think I absolutely agree. Like, I mean, if you're not up for it, don't need to jump into things that you're not ready for.
Listen to that little voice in the back of your head. And I think a lot of people just have fear of disappointing others or not being able to live up to their expectations, and maybe also not realizing that most people are like, yeah, they'd be cool with you taking a minute.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
it's hard to admit.
Yeah, it's better to have a break and have time and space to like recalibrate, and then go back and do it when you're up for it, instead of just like pushing yourself to do things when you're not feeling 100% sometimes.
Right. So wrapping up, have you got any more comps, like official comps this year, or is that all done?
It's just that Red Bull event and then Audi 9, so kind of more like fun session kind of events instead of like the World Cup kind of circuit and whatnot.
And are you going to continue on? You're only 22?
Yeah.
And you've already done 2 Olympics?
Yeah.
Were you 16 at the first one? No, 18.
18, yeah.
17.
It
was just... No, sorry, I got confused. Japan was the one that extended a year.
Yeah.
The Summer Olympics.
Yeah.
So you're... Jeez, man.
18 in Korea, and then, 22 in Beijing.
So I was talking to ABM not long ago, and he went and he was the announcer on the Canadian broadcasting channel so we listened to him talk about your events, and he was like, dude, like, even the year I haven't done it, I'm watching what's happening, and it's like, oh yeah, I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Like, you're at that stage now where you're not even in your prime yet.
Yeah.
And you've already been to 2. Are you... Obviously, there's a lot of time in between, but are you planning, like, I'm going to keep going to see how many I can do? Are you going to be one of those 2, 3, 4 Olympic, like, competitors?
I'm not sure. I'm kind of at a bit of a crossroad right now. Obviously, just finishing these games. I kind of want to have the New Zealand winter to just have some more freedom and time and not have as much structure, because I've kind of been living with a pretty set routine for almost the last 8 years, with the last 2 Olympic cycles. And so I kind of just want to really just push the aspects of my riding that I'm really enjoying, and have the New Zealand season to film and kind of explore those sides. And I think that will just naturally dictate where my next few Northern winters go. So kind of an open-ended question, I feel like.
You still have the passion for skiing, though? Yeah,
for sure. I love all different aspects, and I honestly think like riding slopestyle helps my freeride, and then freeride helps my slopestyle, and it's just like that different perspective that brings some more creativity into both of those. And yeah, I still really enjoy riding slopestyle, but I'm not sure if I'd like to spend more time like in the kind of this is the structure and the routine of like the national team environments. I mean, you get great support, but I also think there's so many.
You got to be here at a certain place and a certain time, and you're on someone else's schedule, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think having, like we said it earlier in the conversation, like having idolized Jossie's era and all those guys who were living in the rock star days, that's kind of more the lifestyle that I liked. And I hope I see freeride, living more of that lifestyle where you rock up and you go for it when the comp's on, but there's also a bit more freedom in between the events to just ride and have fun with your friends and to film. And it seems like with more like structure coming into the World Cup circuit, and there's so much training going on, it's harder to push those sides of it. And so
it's getting a little stiff, a little tight. I wonder if there's going to be a lot of any pushback. So, I remember the fuck fist days and those, all those kind of stuff. And like, when you get to that point, it always reverts back. You get to a certain level or a certain wall and it bounces back a little bit. So I wonder if there's going to be a slight correction where maybe a little bit of that personality or the swag that created the sport and brought it to where it was is he going to be able to, you know, bring a little bit back? It's funny. That's where it started. Now it's all gone.
Yeah. I think it's in like a really interesting place right now, and like the slopestyle and big air realm. You know, big air's in my eyes is going on like a bit of a different tangent that I don't know if I'd like to continue on. But
the spin to win.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on that?
I mean, to me, it's similar to how I used to view aerials when I was younger, you know, where I'm super impressed by what's going down, but I'm not very inspired because it's just like, it's so out of touch with just...
It's not really skiing anymore, in my opinion. It's just like, let's just whip our bodies around as fast as we can.
Yeah,
I was always making jokes they're going to start elevating because they're spinning so fast, right?
Yeah.
And what did Alex Hall do? 2160?
2160 at X Games.
What's that, 5.5?
Five rotation. Like, I don't even really know. That's what's like the
always
crazy
making
part.
jokes. I always used to make jokes.
Yeah.
Like Tom Wallace should be sitting there with his giant calculator being like, hold on.
Yeah, it's nuts. And I think like being at the Olympics and riding with a lot of the people doing big air, like lots of us feel in that similar position where it's just gone like so far down that other side that we're kind of like, this isn't what
Well, let me
we're
ask you
about.
this question. I think I was with Alex. I asked this question: is what would you think about having like limitations? Like you can't spin more than 900, or have comps where the focus on style and technique is more center than, you know, what people are doing now. Like, you know, obviously style is, everyone's got their own style, but right now when you're throwing 2160, it's not really as much because you're just whipping your body around, right?
Yeah.
So say you do a comp where you cap it at 900.
Yeah.
Or cap it at a 9, or like even a 720, and see what people can do and what kind of creativity they can create through that, because that happened, right? And it evolved through that stage, and then it went beyond. But when's the last time a lot of people really focused on that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, I mean, it's like, it seems like the sport goes through waves where it gets pushed like really hard on the progression side, and then people look at those same tricks and do them differently, and it like goes back and forwards between those two. And I just think as the like technical difficulty and the spinning goes up, it's harder for people to incorporate those like different levels of like creativity and grabs and different ways of doing things, because it just gets lost in the spin, you know, like when you're spinning that much, it's pretty hard to differentiate between what's going on, you know. It's not until you watch a slow motion video that you can kind of figure it out. So I think it's a cool idea, you know, to like have a bit more of like a lock, because then you like really push that creative side on it. But I also struggle with the idea of like
having a regulation on it.
Yeah, boxing people in, because that's something to me that's so cool about freestyle skiing, is that part there isn't really rules, and it's all about the self-expression of the rider, and that also opens up to whatever you want to do. And some people just like spinning a lot more, and I'm not one of those riders myself, but you know, it's cool to like just have the options to do whatever. And I think that's where slopestyle still has a lot more chance within that, like compared to big air, where you've still almost got to, it seems like you've got to spin past a 16 or an 18
you have
these
to.
days, you know.
Yeah, if you want to make anything happen for yourself, like in terms of results, right?
Yeah, whereas in slopestyle, I think it's very course dependent, and also the judges have a lot to say in where they steer the sport. And I think Alex Holl's winning run in the Olympics this year was like a perfect example of you can do it differently than just spinning more, you know. You use the course so creatively. And we had a meeting with the Freeride World Tour organisers just yesterday morning, and it was super interesting for me sitting in on that, but coming from a slopestyle realm and hearing their conversations, because there's a lot of chat going on within freeride right now of how you judge like a traditional freeride line versus like a freestyle freeride line. And
was that the conversation yesterday? That's
yeah,
kind of, I heard about that, because the course specifically this year, the comp or the tour has kind of changed a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The first 3 events were very freestyle oriented.
Yeah.
And like the Max Chablot won in kicking horse, and you know they had to change the venue, but a lot of people were like, he didn't even drop a cliff.
Yeah.
But he still destroyed that face.
Yeah.
Right? And it was an amazing round. He deserved to win.
Yeah.
But people were like, he didn't even drop a cliff or anything. Like, is that the same? Like, obviously the venues that the first 2 venues hadn't ever been skied. Actually, all 3 had never been really skied on a Freeride World Tour level.
Yeah.
The kicking horse and the other ones I think had done like junior comps, but they're different. They're not those big steep mountain
Meaty
faces.
cliffs.
Yeah, big meaty cliffs, right? So That's interesting that they actually sat and had a conversation about that. Was that led by the tour, or was that led by the athletes?
It was between both. They've got, I believe, like the
riders board.
A riders board, which is super cool because we don't really have that as much in the FIS freestyle realm. It gets kind of loopholed through the coaches a lot more, and I think that direct feedback loop between athlete and organizers and judges is super important.
It's like the riders union.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, the faces this year, because the snow conditions have been pretty poor, has dictated a lot of the riding. And I kind of see that as like that similar conversation where if the course and slopestyle isn't that great, you're not going to, well, I shouldn't say great, but if it's not very playful and with different options, you won't see as many creative lines. And I just see the conversation going on between the free riders of like how you're judging that traditional free ride versus freestyle free ride is the similar conversation of like, how do you judge creativity versus technical difficulty on the slopestyle side? So it was cool, like just sitting back and hearing like the different points. I stayed pretty quiet myself, since I'm pretty new to this scene.
First concert.
Yeah, but it was really like interesting for me because I feel like I've seen both these different worlds at a very high level, and it was awesome just to see that the people from the Freeride World Tour, the organisers, were like so receptive to the information that they were getting from the athletes, which I hope there's more of that coming on the FIS World Cup kind of scene as well.
Maybe you can start it off. Right?
Yeah,
you'd be a good guy for that because, you know, you've established yourselves. You're still quite young. You've been to 2 Olympics, flag bearer for your country. You know what I mean? Like you hold some clout already. So by the time you're like, 26 at your next Olympics, and then potentially 30. Jesus, like you're so young. But it's amazing. But by then, like 30 years old, do you think you could, I don't know what the sport's going to look like at 30, but you could be a good person for being able to like kind of plant those seeds or kind of lead that if it's something that you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it'd be a really cool thing to do, like this has given me so much in my life, and to give back to it and hopefully help steer it in that different direction, or just a direction that stays true to the core and the culture of our sport would be a really like gratifying thing to do.
Right. Awesome. Well, dude, we're kind of gone a while. Like I think
we're just getting into it.
I was gonna say we're good. We keep.
We're starting to get on a roll.
We keep going, right? We can turn this off and grab another beer. But man, I really appreciate you stopping by. And like I said, you're on the Freeride World Tour podcast the other day. We were chatting with the Kiwis, and you got a lot of cool shit going on, man. I'm glad we got an opportunity to chat.
Yeah, cheers,
thanks,
man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming by. What do people need to know? Where can they find you? What should they be looking out for?
Just Finn Bilous on Instagram. That's probably where I stay the most active. But follow me on that, and hopefully I'll be posting some kind of antics.
Yeah, right. Well, this is gonna be out. I don't know, a couple weeks maybe, and right probably when you're in the middle of your Good Times tour through the rest of the Euro continent.
Yeah.
With your 3 passports. Oh my god, I'm so jealous.
3 passports and a couple Aperol spritzers and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, there you go. One of my life goals is to have another passport. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
Just need to find a nice lady then from a different country.
Yeah, exactly. I just gotta figure out what country, right?
Yeah.
All right, dude. Hey, thanks for coming by, and we'll talk to you in a bit.
Pleasure. Thanks, brother.
You've been listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers. This has been a Redmark Media production.